Good morning. Welcome to our podcast show, First Name Basis. Today I'm really happy to have two really special guests who I miss very dearly ever since you left us. But I'm sitting with two of our amazing interns who interned here at TribalScale, and both have been doing different roles here and have been contributing to the tribe in many different ways. And so I want to have an authentic conversation with you guys about tech, about business, about innovation. And so let's also chat about your experiences at TribalScale. So I don't want to introduce you guys because especially you, Natalia, you've come out of your shell so much in the past year and a bit that you've been working with us. And I watched you present the other day, and so I want you to present yourself to our listeners today.
Sure. So my name's Natalia. I interned at TribalScale in 2017, and then I came back for another 8 months in 2018. I'm a student at the University of Waterloo studying sports and business with a specialty in marketing and event management. At TribalScale, I worked on the marketing team with a wonderful group of ladies. I did all sorts of events.
And gentlemen, I helped.
Okay, you too. I did all sorts of events, from our takeover conference to small hosted events in the office.
Three takeover conferences. Three takeover conferences in a year and a bit. Yeah. That was no easy feat.
2 and 8 months, so that was fun.
Yeah. No, you're definitely a grinder. I mean, Natalia has been someone who's been working with us and been in our office day and night. You know, if I walked in at 1 o'clock in the morning, chances are you'll see Natalia grinding here to make sure we're all ready for whatever's happening the next day. Gavin, you and I connected, and we had such a good conversation. We should have made that a podcast. Introduce yourself, brother.
Cool. Thank you. So I don't know how to live up to Natalia's resume there. That's a lot. So I'm basically currently a student right now, a grad student at UFT's iSchool, and I'm studying UX design. So that's concentration that I'm in. So while I was here, I was a product designer, and for me, I did a little bit of UI UX. A lot of it was focused on research and some strategy as well.
Cool. So Gavin, how did your experience here at TribalScale change you personally and professionally?
It's weird to say this, but I think I became a little bit more mellow.
Okay.
It's not so intense and just kind of like, it's like, okay. It's like,
so explain that. How did you become more mellow? Because this is a pretty intense environment, right?
Yeah. I guess for me, like, I'm a pretty competitive person.
Mm-hmm.
I actually wanted to go into academia. So for me, I've always been very focused on academics and just coming in here. It's a different environment where you're working as a tribe.
Yeah.
But in academics, you're often by yourself sometimes. And
sure.
So it's like, your grades or focusing on how you can learn something by yourself. And sometimes you work with other coworkers, but especially in tech, I'm learning you really work with people together in teams and as a group. Mm-hmm. Versus in academia, you don't do that as much. And so I realized here sometimes that I had to kind of tone down my competitive aspect and really think about working with the group as a whole. Very cool.
That's an awesome angle. I mean, being able to become more collaborative and figure out processes that work together so that you could, for the betterment of the group and not just yourself is something huge. So, Natalia, what about you?
Well, as you said before, I learned how to break out of my shell a little bit. Not so much in the first term I was here, but
I think in your first term I never heard your voice once.
You heard a lot of me in the last 8 months, so that changed. Just on a personal level, I learned to speak up more and to just present myself better. On a professional level, I learned what I wanted to do with my life. Before coming to TribalScale, I didn't really have a path, but after being here, I realized that I love events and that's what I want to do and specialize in. So, it was great to learn that.
Okay. Well, the future of work is changing, and you've had a chance to work at a couple different places, and you just kept coming back to TribalScale. But what were you looking for in the internship role? Like, what made you want to come back? What was your criteria? What recommendations do you have for future interns who are looking to go into a place? Mm-hmm. That doesn't necessarily have to be here. And what advice do you have for employers?
So as I was saying, at TribalScale, I found a challenging environment, but also a supportive environment. So I had a manager that supported me and what I wanted to and my goals. And that's why I came back, because of her, because she really challenged me to be my best. And that's a good thing for employers to be to their interns, is to keep pushing them and learn and grow in their environment. I also found a challenging environment. So takeover the first time, it was rough, it was tough, but
there's a
I
group
came
of people
back.
who've never put on a conference.
Yeah.
Or putting on a conference.
I
Thank God it
learned
didn't
so
end up
much,
like the
so.
Fire Festival.
That would have been something. Yeah, I came back because I love takeover and I wanted to be challenged again. So I recommend you find a environment that challenges you.
So by being challenged, does that mean, this is kind of a leading question because I already know how it was for you, but by being challenged, does that mean you want to be given prescriptive like guidelines of like, here's what you should do, and you're like, oh, I don't know how to do them, but I'll figure it out? Or by being challenged, is it like, here's the North Star, we got to figure it out, right? There's two different approaches.
I guess a little bit of both.
Because some bosses are like, do it this way, you gotta
Yeah.
do it this way, get it done, right?
Like learning the way that it's supposed to be done, that's a challenge. But learning a way where there's really no way, that's also a challenge. So I kind of a little bit of both I learned here. But definitely like do your thing, figure it out is definitely, it was cool for me.
Cool.
So.
Gavin?
Yeah, I'd also like tack on the idea of this is actually like my second internship. And so for me, I think at the beginning, like I think my first one, and I really think TribalScale helped me think about this a bit more, is that you have to be confident in what you can do. Mm-hmm. And even if you think that you can't do something, you should still be confident about saying that you can do it. And I was at my previous internship where I was like a little bit like, I don't know if I can do this, and then I ended up not doing it. But TribalScale, like I think I dared myself a lot more, and I was encouraged to come out of my shell and be like, you can do this, you can do design, you can do UI, UX, you can do research. And then only later when I advocated for it, then I was given those tasks. But if I hadn't asked, I wouldn't be able to do it. If I hadn't had the courage in this open culture to like come to Sheetal and be like, hey Sheetal, would you like to have a coffee with me? You know, it wouldn't have happened. I wouldn't be here at this podcast now. So like taking advantage of those opportunities and being brave about it was something that I thought became like a really significant part for me.
Well, I'm gonna go a little off script.
Yeah.
And here's, you guys both challenge yourselves to go try new things. What was your biggest fail fast moment?
Oh, wow.
Can't prep for me.
There was I think there was a moment, I think in like, I think like the first week I was at TribalScale, and we were in a meeting for a pitch, and I was just there to listen. And at the end of the meeting, I think I was like trying to ask all these questions, and then one of my managers, who's a manager now, Martha, she's awesome. She said, Gavin, you know, this is your first week. We're not expecting you to give us answers. Yeah. We're expecting you here to just like, you know, if you have to, just listen and learn.
Be a sponge.
Be a sponge.
Yeah.
And it's not on you to like come up with the answers for us now. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then I realized like, you know,
it's okay if you don't know something.
Yeah, just chill out.
Okay, yeah.
I don't have anything to prove to anyone else at this moment, but it's about like just being in my, who I am, being comfortable with what I can offer and what I can do, and being really brutally honest about that.
Well, kudos to you, because at the end, people were coming to you for answers, and you know, it's great. You elevated yourself, and you were a sponge, and you learned a lot. But that's a really good fail fast moment. You don't got to be a know-it-all, right? Natalia, we have so many.
So many. I'm gonna go on a personal fail fast. I wish that I would have been able to break out of that shell a little sooner. Because when I did, I realized that it's not so scary and you can do it. Yeah. So I just wish I had done that a little bit earlier. And I know that takes time and practice, but it's just something that I really wish I pushed myself more to do a little bit earlier.
So the environment and being able to do both of those things really matters, right? Like, so and being able to be like, I don't know the answer, and that's okay, really depends on an environment. And being able to say, you know, I wasn't ready to come out of my shell, and that's okay, also matters to an environment. So like, some advice to like the interns who are listening, they should look for environments where it's okay to be themselves, and they have the ability to grow, right? Mm-hmm. Is that what I'm hearing from you too?
Yes.
I don't want to put words into your mouth.
I also think there's like a sense of humility involved too, because I think when you're an intern, a lot of the time you're going to be doing tasks that are, you know, sometimes you'll be thinking like, this is really trivial. Mm-hmm. You know, like this, I don't know if I'm going to learn as much as I will from doing this task. But then sometimes like it also gives you a really good up close thing where after you do, you're like, wait a minute, there was things about that I didn't even realize that were really important. It gives you a perspective. And later on, you actually value that. And sometimes I think like we're so eager to get towards the end goal of like finding a full-time job, but sometimes we should also enjoy that journey of being in an apprenticeship role and really like smelling the roses and just like taking everything in, because we're not going to be in that position again. Right. So I think we should give ourselves that time to like fail, to like learn, to really appreciate being an apprentice.
Yeah. And really ask, like, if you want to do something, just say it. And if your manager says no, then that's okay. But if they're supportive, then you'll get a chance to do something that you really want to do. So
yeah, so definitely be empowered, right? Like be able to get up and ask if you want to do something completely different that the organization's not doing. Your manager may say no, but the beauty in that answer is the why.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right? Because then you'll learn, and then you can move forward from there. But the amazing thing that can happen is when the manager goes, "This is a great idea. Let's action it."
Yeah.
Then you're looking at yourself going, now what am I gonna do? Cool, Gavin. You had a question here for me.
Oh, okay. So, so I came across a quote by Mark Cuban where he said the key characteristic he hires for isn't just smarts, drives, or being learners. It's people who understand the greatest value is to reduce their boss's stress. So what's a key characteristic you value or hire at TribalScale? Yeah,
I always say, I look for people to be around me who are going to actually end up motivating me, right? I love the quote. Mark Cuban has so many good quotes, but I love the fact that the best employees are the ones who actually bring me less stress. It's because I can rely on them, but then trust comes in there, right? And again, it doesn't necessarily have to be that it's going to be done right or perfect, because we're going to go into uncharted waters all the time. But I want to have faith that this person's going to take us the right way. If we're going to fail, we're going to fail fast, and we'll figure out the right solution together, right? So definitely alleviating the stress. But I always say the two things that really helped me in my career and that I look for in others is being smart and hungry. And, I've gotten some pushback on that. And, people have been like, well, what does that really mean, smart and hungry? Does that mean you got to work 20 hours a day? No, not necessarily, because that may not be smart. If you're not working on the right things, then that's not smart. How are you actually going to be smart and really passionate and hungry about what you want to accomplish? So I think those two characteristics. So when I get asked, what does smart and hungry mean? I have my own definition, but one exercise that started working for me, and I've been doing it recently with people who ask me what does smart and hungry mean, I actually say take 2 minutes and go and look in the mirror, be alone, and say the words smart and hungry and look at yourself, and whatever that means to you, come back and do that. Right? And I think if you embody that, if you know what the true meaning of smart and hungry means to yourself, and you come and bring that to this organization, I think you're going to flourish. Right? It doesn't have to be my definition of it. So I really look for those things. The other thing I look for is, you kind of hit the nail on the head, is humility. It's okay if we F up, right? It's okay if we fail. Let's learn from it. Let's make it an open and honest thing, and let's move forward. And that I think is the one thing I really value about, especially you guys, right? Interns are coming in, they're not expected to know everything. This is actually an experience that we're gonna go through together. And we've got a lot of lessons learned that we can start teaching you guys, and you guys are gonna go into uncharted waters and teach us a bunch of lessons, and that's great for both parties. So yeah, those are the two things for me.
Cool.
Well, being an intern and being in an environment where you can fail and encouraged to fail is definitely a good thing, and has helped me grow.
Yeah, for sure. I also want to put in the idea of ambition and just thinking about goals and growing. I think in an organization, especially when you're an intern, you don't always know what you want and what you're looking to move into, and an organization can sometimes help you shape those ideas about what you're interested in. I mean, for me, the idea of business and innovation. For me, being on Jane's product team made me think about my value as a designer.
Absolutely.
What is it to me as on not just now, but maybe in the future, if I want to work for myself? What is my value, and what can I provide to an organization? That made me really think a little bit more about kind of my own growth. And I think when you have someone as a manager who not just thinks about the organization's growth, but also your own growth as a person,
absolutely,
that shows that you have someone that really values you, that that's a good organization, I think.
Well, career growth, I think, really matters. It's something that here at TribalScale I look at a lot. If you look at the people who work here, they will never leave to go somewhere and do something like mundane. You know, they're the people who are going to go out there and like really lead the charge of when it comes to innovation, especially in digital, anywhere else. I was lucky enough to work in an organization called Extreme Labs, and you know, I learned so much there. And it wasn't that, you know, you're not there for the money and you're not there for the title. It was like you were there because you were on this mission. And I learned so much there. And if you look at where like that alumni has gone now, that's like our badge of honor. If you see someone who's like worked at Extreme Labs, they're like the director of mobile at a national sports league. They're started their own startups. They're all over the place doing amazing things. It's like, you know, even PayPal. If you look at what happened after PayPal with Elon Musk and Peter Thiel and everybody, you know, it's those types of badges of honor I think you really got to look for and be like, is this place going to give me that education and that life, those life lessons so I can move on? And I look at TribalScale now and we look at, you know, the amazing projects we work on. We transform amazing organizations. Like the career growth and the learning that you get when you're actually at this organization, I think is second to none, right? It's better than just sitting in a large corporate that is struggling itself to transform into an agile way. You might have a fancy title and a big paycheck, but then at the end of the day, you're just gonna be in that rat race. Like you're gonna be in that same rat race with everybody else, as opposed to being like, hey, I was at the startup, I grew a ton, I learned a lot, and now I can transfer those skills, whether it be for yourself if you're gonna start something on your own, or hey, this next job or this next company I'm really super passionate about that I want to go into. Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay, let's switch gears a bit. What was some of your favorite moments?
Oh, I was making a list last night, and I had to narrow it down to like 3 that I got. That I'll tell you.
Okay.
So the first one is obviously Takeover.
Which one?
Takeover 2018 in Toronto.
Okay.
That one was it was the second time around. We knew what we were doing. It was still a lot, but it was so
Every
much fun.
Takeover conference, you guys have made me pinch myself. Going, oh my God, is this real?
Yeah, so that was my first one. The second one was the boat cruise that we did.
Okay.
And the video that came out of it. It still gives me chills when I watch it because that was such a fun night.
We do some fun offsites.
We do
some fun offsites. We have a fun beach day.
Yeah,
we go on
beach
boat
day
cruises.
was fun.
We've gone axe throwing. We've done every quarter. We do something.
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah. But I can't think of the third one that I had. But those were my top 2. Yeah.
Okay.
For me, it's the offsite as well too. We had a design offsite.
Okay. Where'd you guys go?
We actually went to karaoke afterwards.
Okay.
And that was a lot of fun because I was just like, karaoke, this is awesome. We just started.
Are you saying this because you're Asian?
I'm getting into it. I mean, I think it was one of us suggestions who came out, and we're just like, let's do it. Let's get a whole bunch of us crammed to a room and just start singing.
Nice.
And it was a lot of fun. We just started jumping up on the couches, and I think there's some infamous video of us somewhere, and James probably.
Yeah. They get shared around Slack, and we share.
I don't know. There's some pretty embarrassing moments, but it was a really fun time.
That's awesome. Yeah. I'll tell you one of my favorite moments. You know, in the 3 years that we've been around with interns has been our beach day. I always found it to be like a place where I get to, you know, it's so hard as we grew so fast for me to get to know everybody, like on a personal level. And there's something about doing like a competitive sport or even just like lying on the beach, just staring at the clouds, like, and having a conversation about nothing about work, right? Like just about whatever. Like the amazing connections. We're not okay, we're back up. Sorry, we're having some technical glitches today, but it's okay. We'll roll with the punches. All right, Gavin, you got some advice for students and interns who want to work in the tech innovation space?
It's funny because I think one of the things I realized is like when you're a student, you're so focused on school. You're like, I got to go to classes, I got to do homework, I got to like focus on everything in my daily life. But I think one of the things about tech especially is it's community, and we sometimes forget that there's meetup groups, there's like conferences, there's events.
Yeah.
A lot of the time when we actually get a job, it's not because like we applied our resume, it's actually because we know someone. And having that like human connection is a really big difference. I actually got one of my first...
You built a personal brand even at that moment, right?
Exactly,
like you've pushed your thought leadership, whether it's right or wrong, and you've like talked to people and you've started morphing your own opinions. I agree with you.
Yeah, so like one of the first times I actually got an internship was because I met someone consecutively at meetup events.
Okay.
One right after the other. And then I'm like, oh, it's this person. Like, oh, we're actually hiring. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I put in my resume and I got in. But it was because I actually made that decision to go to events and not just be focused only on school.
Well, then you can be passionate about, I mean, if you think about it, you can be passionate about where you want to go to, because now you've actually seen the ecosystem, you know what companies are out there. Your net is cast pretty wide of opportunities that are there, so you could pick what's going to be the right one for you, as opposed to if you don't do that stuff, you're looking at a computer screen hoping that this is going to be the right job for you or not. Like, why not invest in yourself and your future and do that stuff?
Yeah.
Did you take advantage of us? Like, so here at TribalScale, we give out, if you want to go to TechTO, we'll get you a ticket. We encourage everybody to go out to these meetup events. Were you taking advantage of that while you were here?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I was asking, like, can I
go here? Can I
go to Design X? And so, I got a free ticket to that, and that was amazing.
It wasn't free. We had to pay for it.
Well, I mean,
I actually got those free.
Thank you so much, Natalia. I really appreciate that. No, it was,
Somewhere my credit card got dinged.
No, I really appreciate, like, being in an organization which fosters that sense of, like, if you want to further yourself, do as much as you can, and we're willing to sponsor you in that regard.
Well, you can't be an organization if you don't empower your people to be leaders, right? So why go try to find someone who is a leader and say, oh, come work with us? Why not just invest in your people and make them leaders?
Right.
What about you?
Advice in a tech innovation space?
Did you work in tech at all before?
I didn't.
Was it new to you?
Not really. It was pretty new to me, especially in a startup.
Not really. What was that, like a half-ass company before?
No, it was for at school.
Don't say the name now.
No, it was at school, part of the Hyperloop project. So I guess that was a little techy, but this was my first startup. So I guess some advice for a tech startup is just be ready to grind. Even though I didn't work specifically with tech, I still was here sometimes at 10 o'clock at night, and I see it in the office all the time.
Sleeping on the couch in the game room.
Yeah, done that before.
I remember. I came back.
That was hard.
I came back from a night out, and it was like 4 a.m. from the hackathon, and I came back at like 4 o'clock in the morning. And there's little Natalia like sleeping in her pajamas.
And then the fire alarm went off. It was pretty funny.
That was a fun one. That hackathon was a lot of fun.
Yeah, when everyone ate spicy noodles. It was really funny. So yeah, just be ready to grind and always continue to learn. There's so much in tech and innovation. The world is changing so fast. So just keep learning.
Okay. Outside of work, what are your best side projects?
For me,
what are you passionate about?
I'm really passionate about design ethics. So right now I'm hosting a meetup. It's called...
Good for you. We were talking about this before.
Yeah,
you're doing it. I like it. Good for you.
I didn't know if it was possible.
Yeah.
But I'm doing something called UX Ethics, TO. And basically...
Give it a plug, man. Talk about it.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. It's I'm doing an event at Shopify, and we're doing data and design and the relationship between that.
Really cool.
Yeah.
And you got like a heavy hitter from the data side coming too.
Yeah. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
It should be interesting.
Is it a workshop or just a talk?
Natalia wants to come.
Oh,
I want to
it's about so there's 2 speakers, and there's going to be a panel, and we're really kind of looking at the relationship between like data and design. So for example, I was at an event recently at a data event, and everyone talked. They were like, who is here as a data scientist? Who is here as like a researcher? Who is a product manager? But
Nobody
no one
thought about design.
No, and so I was like, is there no relationship between us? Like, can we not have some kind of relationship between us? Are we all working in our own silos? And so that kind of made me think, like, we should talk about this. I think it's an important discussion.
Absolutely.
Cool.
What about you?
Well, I've been off school for a little bit, for a month now. So I've thrown myself in a couple other side projects, and I've done this throughout all of university. So I'm pretty passionate about learning and just growing outside of my comfort zone. and experiencing different aspects of industries. So I've been working with a travel company for the last month or so that my brother started.
Cool.
So I've been working with that and learning so much about the travel industry. So learning about different industries and seeing what I like. And then I also worked with a healthcare company the last little bit. So they've been trying to connect young adults with cancer. So it's not something that I can relate to, but I've been learning so much about it. So just
your compassion there takes over.
Yeah, my big heart. So just growing and learning is something I'm really passionate about.
Cool. Okay, we're coming up to time, and I've been asking you guys all the questions, and I love being put on the spot. So you guys can pick a question from here, or you could free ball and ask me whatever you guys want. Ball's in your court. Why don't you start, Gavin?
Sure. So what are some social innovation or entrepreneurship projects that you're really excited about?
I think there's a lot of cool projects happening actually right now that I'm excited about. But the ones that I'm extremely passionate about are the ones that are doing more social justice. And so, if you look at how technology could make, I sit on the board of the Ontario Association of Food Banks, and how could technology go and play a role in actually helping people, like how could we end hunger, right? And there's a lot of cool startups that are starting to do like, hey, food pickup programs from restaurants, and let's get them to people who are hungry, so on and so forth. And I think that's amazing if technology could go and disrupt and do that. I sit on the board of the Tech for Sick Kids Council also, and a good friend of mine, Amar Varma, just helped get an AI chair there, and so like let's use AI to solve problems for children. Who wants to ever see sick children? And like, so those are the types of projects I think we could all build really cool consumer experiences or amazing business-to-business companies, and we could change the lives of like millions of people by building the digital products we touch. But what are going to be the meaningful things that we change? I think are the things that are happening in those areas, right? Where actual social justice for the good of mankind, and I think that is an area that I think is I'm always looking at and seeing what's happening. So there you go.
I really think that's a really important thing too, because recently I got involved in this project. I didn't get to say this, but it's called Ample Labs, and so they're a company that it's like a nonprofit, and they focus on helping people who are homeless.
Right.
And they actually created like a chatbot called CharmerSpot, and you can actually, if you're transitional homeless or you're not able to find a shelter, and like how you can put that into the chatbot. So it's interesting because what they also do as well is trying to get people who are not within the tech industry, if you are as a transitional homeless, to be part of the tech industry, to teach them and educate them. So I think sometimes there's kind of an equity imbalance.
Absolutely.
Especially in tech right now, like, you don't come from that background, you don't know people within it. How do you get into it? It's so hard. And we end up maybe even sliding to this kind of caste system. So like, if tech can like help to promote more equality and it help everyone out, I think that's a really important thing. That's
I love it. There's so many cool initiatives like that going on, right? I'm going to tell you, fire one at me.
Cool, I got one.
Okay.
So TribalScale is an innovation partner. What is your take on the term innovation, and where do you see TribalScale taking it? Okay,
great question. I see the word innovation be used for a lot of, especially by the enterprises that we work with, in a lot of wrong ways. And this is where I see the opportunity, and it's like, you can't just take people and put them in a new office and put a ping pong table there and get some cool furniture and say no more cubicles, and say now all collaborate and work together and expect your innovation to happen, right? And I look at TribalScale, and what we do is we do three things that I think innovation dollars need to be spent on in a capital efficient and a productive way. And if you work with TribalScale, you'll be able to do those three things. So the first one being let us. You may just have a project that you need done, and why don't you come to us to have you? We'll do your design, product, development, everything here. We'll do it in strategy. We'll do it in an amazing, holistic way, in an agile way, and deliver you an amazing product on time, on budget. Low hanging fruit for us. We've been doing it for a long time. That's let us actually that's our project services work. If you take the second part, which is transformation, it's let us transform your teams to work in this new way of working, right? Let us transform your teams to actually work and execute on the projects that you currently have in an agile way. And we do that in not only pairing with the teams, but actually, doing startup school, doing all the consulting. I always say the big four management consulting decks, $1 million decks. We do all of that stuff. But what the best part about us is when we work on a transformation project, there's actually an output, and the output is the product that the business actually needs, right? And so that's number two. The third thing is, if you're a large enterprise and you want to be exposed to innovation, well, how could I innovate myself to create new products or offerings? Or how can I be exposed to the startup community out there that's doing this? And so we have a venture studio model that will actually go out and help you figure out what your problems are and plug them into startups that are out there. Or why don't we co-create and build startups from the ground up, or ideas from the ground up, right? Yeah. And so if you look at the goal of what an innovation lab should be, it's execute my projects, transform my team, and show me exposure to the venture community, to the startup community. And so TribalScale is able to do all three. And that's what makes me super passionate, is because when we see budgets go out there of $100 million a year, $150 million a year with very little output coming out, I know that's driving CEOs crazy. And what we want to say is, hey, we have a crawl, walk, run approach. Let us show you how we can take that $100 million and make it capital efficient and show you productivity. Cool. Long-winded answer, but
it's a good one.
Okay, I hope so. I hope so.
Yeah.
Cool. I think we're almost out of time. Any last words, guys?
Got anything to say, Natalia?
I don't think so.
You're going right back to your old self now. All right, with that, that's going to be a wrap. I want to thank all of our listeners and anybody who's watching. We're going to have this posted up everywhere, and so you guys are going to be celebrities after this. People are going to be running up to you for autographs. So if you see Gavin and Natalia out there, please do run up to them for their advice, and they'll be happy to give you an autograph. But having said that, thanks so much everyone for listening in.
Well, thanks for having us.
Thank you so much.